The small SUV is here to stay. You lot cannot get enough of them. Well, most of you. Anyway, we'll get onto that in a bit. But is there a way to make a workaday car like that fun? Well, Audi reckons it's found a way with this, the SQ2.
What's an SQ2 when it's at home then? Well, car nerds won't be hugely surprised to learn that it's based on the VW Group's MQB platform, that thing that all the cars have been built on. Golfs, A3s, Leons, Tiguans, you name it, it's been made on it. However, this is the Audi one, which means it comes with some distinctive styling and some extra luxury over its more pedestrian cousins.
While it is a little sharper than its more, say, premium cousins, it's not exactly garish. Is it? I mean, Audi RS cars are the ones that are big and loud and shouty and pointy. The S cars do tend to be a little more reserved, shall we say. But your neighbours won't even know you're packing power, unless of course they know what they're looking for. On the front there's a little SQ2 badge, another one on the rear, above a set of fairly meaty quad exhausts, which are, well, little indicators as to what it's packing. But this is subtle, it's stealthy, it's an under-the-radar traffic light drag racer.
How likely are you to win off the lights then? Well, it's got the framed EA888 Turbo 4 on board, attached to a 7-speed S-Tronic Auto, which means 296 brake horsepower and 295 pound-foot is being fired to all four wheels. 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 4.9 seconds, and its top speed is limited to 155 miles an hour. That seems pretty sprightly to me. Audi says it'll get you a whole 34 mpg as well, which isn't colossal, but enough for the kind of person who fancies doing 0 to 62 in fewer than 5 seconds with their whole family on board.
While the exterior is quite reserved, the interior is like an Audi from a long time ago, and I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. Let me explain. You see, while the current A3, the one you can buy right now, has lots of swoopy angles and lots of piano black trim, it feels a lot more modern, but not quite as sturdy as Audi's used to. It feels like it's been something of a victim of cost cutting. But the old A3, which basically this is, that felt well built, it felt solid, but it's also older, so you get older and well built like this, or a little bit newer like the new one. Can you see why I'm confused? Because I can.
If we're going to be all grown up and practical about these things, as people who buy small SUVs tend to be, there's enough rear legroom for a tallish person to sit behind me, a shortish person fairly comfortably. However, if you popped a lanky human up front, you'll have rear passengers fighting for literally any other seat. You also get 355 litres of boot space with the seats up and 1,000 with them down. That's less than a Dacia Duster, the best car in the world, but still enough for most people.
There's an interesting omission on the S version of the Q2. Adaptive dampers. You can get it on the Vorsprung version, but that's a lot more money. But you can get it on lower level versions of the Q2. And part of me understands you can set the springs as you want them, and you can have the mix of sport and day-to-day, and it does remove a layer of complexity. But on the other hand, why are you holding out on us, Audi? With our set springs, our similar numbers to an enormous amount of cars by now, and our slightly old interior, how does the SQ2 move? I'm going to start us off in comfort. There are loads of modes. There's efficiency, and which makes things slow. There's individual, set it up as you like, and there's auto, which does some magic. But there's two modes I'm interested in. Comfort, because that's how most people will drive this thing, and dynamic. In comfort, it feels like our car. You can see out of it well enough. There are some pointy body things that seem a bit pointless, really. I mean, it makes it look pretty, but I've got a big just lump of metal sticking in my wing mirror. The steering is steering. It's not full of feedback. The gearbox is quiet. It's not jerky. It's fine. It's fine. Throttle response is good. Brakes are good. It's our car, and it's our car that you can use on the daily basis. It is, in the least offensive way possible, completely inoffensive. I don't hate my time in it, but I'm not setting my hair alight. When you put it into dynamic, a few things happen. The steering gets a bit heavier, the gearbox gets a bit more aggressive, and you get more noise. The springs don't change, but we know about that already. And if I pull on my paddle, it goes into mode, manual, and then what happens if you put your foot down? Quite a lot. This is silly. Why? This is a sensible family car for sensible families who do boring things like go to Sainsbury's and I don't know, have puppies and visit Nana on the weekends.
There's one rather tricky issue with the SQ2 that does need addressing: the price. At its base, it's £40,500. This one, with a few options, is over £44,000. That's a lot of money, no matter how good a car is, especially when you start looking elsewhere. For a bit more change, you can sneak your way into a Porsche Macan, though one with less power and no options, so it'll be bare, but still. If you split the difference between the two, you can have a 718 Cayman, again with no options, and you won't be able to have anyone in the rear, but you almost get the same boot space.
I am very aware that there will be a large group of people on the internet, or at least a very shouty group of people on the internet, who don't like this thing at a very visceral level. They don't like the fact it's a lifted hatchback thing. They think it's just wrong. I hear you, angry car Twitter, I really, really do, but I have a message for you. Just because you think something is bad, that doesn't make it wrong. That doesn't mean it shouldn't exist. Otherwise, Justin Bieber wouldn't be a thing. And nor would marzipan. And marzipan's rubbish.
While you don't like it, sales of cars like this are going through the roof, and Audi, a business that can only exist if it makes money, will be all over that. And the more of these it sells, with the punchy motor or without, the more it can invest in making the kind of things people on the internet don't complain about, but also never buy.
Cars like this are going to have their detractors, but in reality there's a reason people buy them. You get a raised ride height, it's easier to put stuff in the back. They handle nicely if you set them up properly. And with the SQ2, Audi's tried to put a bit of fun into it. It's got the tried and tested platform, it's got the tried and tested engine, and the result is a car that's kept me thoroughly entertained all day. I don't feel like driving this makes people think I've given up. It's a fun car, it's a fun little hot hatch. I am entertained. I could do with a touchscreen though, but I've made do without adaptive dampers. So if you want something that doesn't make you feel like you've failed at life because you've had kids, it exists. And if someone has a pop at you because, oh, it's a crossover, just tell them where to go. Mm.